Hey everyone, we're here with at the North American Soccer Expo, but we're here with a very special guest, Vancho Cirovski. Us being MSU guys, he was a Michigan State alum. He's a Michigan State alum, played for the MSU men's soccer program. His brother Sasho also coaches at one of the best college soccer programs in the country at the University of Maryland. Vancho, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks, Brooks.
Yeah. So you're going to present today. What are you going to present today at the North American Soccer Expo?
Well, so in summary, it's really about the sort of the side that doesn't get enough attention, and that is sort of the social fabric
Mm-hmm.
of competitive sports. Right? There's enough work being done on the technical, tactical side, the strategies, but I don't know in my mind if there's enough attention to sort of the off the field stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's more culture related, more team chemistry related, and more assessment of social value and motivation systems. And so this is what I want to talk about. I want to really speak to the idea of what it is, what culture is, how do you measure it, how do we define team chemistry, and how do we try to build that to support the competitive nature of a team, give them the competitive advantage with the social side of the equation rather than the technical side.
Yes. And so when I was at Lawrence Tech, I mean, I spoke to you about it. Damon uses this. Sasho does. There's pro clubs that use your methodology and what you do. It's very intriguing. So I believe it was the 5 or 6 questions. If you want to go through the process and explain,
Sure.
it's very intriguing.
Right. So on the culture side, it's an entirely different survey. It's a survey that is anonymously taken, and it measures the entire um, atmosphere of the organization.
Mhm.
So this is a longer term play. On the chemistry side, which is something that is fluid and dynamic in sports teams, especially with turnover from year to year,
Mhm.
changes in things that might happen that affect the dynamics of a team. So what we need to do is take a pulse of what's happening. And typically you do that at the beginning of the season somewhere after the team has kind of started to form.
Mhm.
And you ask, at this moment, it's 8 questions.
Oh, okay.
4 of the questions are on-field questions,
Okay.
and 4 are essentially off-the-field questions.
Okay.
In each of those questions, every individual has to respond to every other on the team. So we include the coaching staff in it as well, but when we display the results, we could break it down simply what the team is doing, how are the coaches engaged, are they having influence on the field or not.
Mhm.
And really, this all started because at one point, my brother was frustrated whether or not he was getting leadership on the field. And as opposed to losing his hair, he said, "What the hell is going on out here?" Right? So I said, "Well, maybe you don't have the right leaders, taking on that responsibility." And then we started the process of the surveys to assess who has influence on the field and who is the most integrated on the field.
So this kind of arose from your brother coaching and not having a pulse of leadership on the team and questioning, and you guys put your heads together and said, "This is how we're gonna. This is phenomenal."
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
How long
That's
have you been? How long you been doing this?
20 years. So look, so when I started doing this, Craig, this was pencil and paper tests. Now we have a full-blown app and a survey
Wow.
methodology.
It's great.
And
Yeah.
I can't display everything because it is a sensitive nature.
Oh,
You're
absolutely.
showing
Yeah.
connections between players
Yes.
and coaches and the disconnects. And so, but imagine if you could figure that out and identify who the glue guys are.
Yeah.
There's a term that we use, right? Who do you go to for this or for that? But collectively, in the aggregate, who has the most impact?
Okay.
And that is a measure of influence and integration. And if you can hit both of those points, well, that guy's got already the impact that you need. And so it's one of the things that I really struggled with. And when I was even at Michigan State, of course, when we chose the captains, you know how we did it.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a popularity vote.
Essentially.
Yes.
Okay. And it's usually one or two. You defer to one.
Right.
But there isn't anything in the world of team dynamics that relies on a single individual, especially if there are more than 5 involved in that functional unit. And so if you've got 15 to 20 or 30 people on your team, you have more than one leader.
Yes.
And so you need to understand who those people are and what is the gap between that and the rest of the folks who are in the cliques.
Yes.
Who is this more for? Is it more for the coaching and the staff, or is it do you find who benefits more? Is it the coach, the staff, or is it the players who actually are benefiting?
So this is a sensitive question. The coaches definitely,
Okay.
because what we're doing is essentially taking an MRI
Mhm.
of the team dynamics. It's about seeing what is unseeable
Yes.
when it comes to leadership.
Yep.
Okay.
And so the coaches need to understand that. Now, what are the solutions for this? There are many and varied, and depend on the context and the culture of the club, the organization. So with Sash, after so many years of using this tool, we've presented the data and the results to the leadership team.
Mhm.
So once we identify who those folks are, we can present that, but it's almost like signing a confidentiality agreement with them that you're using this for the purposes of benefiting the rest of the team,
Yes.
not to create negative consequences from sharing the data, because
Correct.
it's sensitive.
Yes.
Why is this individual totally disconnected? Now, I might say, this is weird, but a coach will have insight into that and say, look, there's the context of this. So this player happens to live off campus. He's with a girlfriend. He's got a child. I'm using that as an example.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. There's
There's a reason for something, right? And I can't discern that without sharing that information and sitting down and looking at it. But there's some really obvious things. Are the people who are the most influential actually leading?
Okay, so obviously this is based on soccer. Have you delved into other sports?
Absolutely. So in my database, there's probably about 60 to 70 unique teams involved in this survey methodology over time, from college to professional to basketball teams. In fact, one of the most successful teams in college women's basketball in Canada and Ontario, well, they're in Windsor, but they had a run of 5 successful national championships, and I don't take credit for working with them and achieving success, because the kids have to hit threes when they count, right, to win the championships.
Yes.
But if you create the environment, if you understand what triggers to pull and how to set the rhythm, because you have the right leaders taking responsibility, your chances of winning and being successful are 10, 20, 30% better. And that is the science behind it, is that if you focus on this stuff, it pays dividends and you win.
Yes. What I found interesting when we did with Lawrence Tech, the way it was, it made me view the players differently in how I noticed the connections between them and who I needed to bring into a group. And this is because what he was showing me, Craig, is that you can take your starting 11 and then there's a chart that says which line's the thickest, that has the strongest connection, and then who's the thin line. And I may need my outside back and my winger to be more connected to play better on the field. And it was crazy. And I was looking, I was like, oh my gosh, this is spot on.
Yeah, you get that a lot.
Yes.
When we present the data, but not only are you presenting it in terms of, okay, what if this condition exists? So we ask the questions of the players to respond on at what level do you look to this person, or how strong is the connection?
Yep.
So what we look for is real trust networks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find that, now you've got a real strong cluster. But there are some that are not connected, and so what do you do about that?
Correct.
I mean, Damon can speak to an example back in the days when Fatah Elashi and
Boy,
Jay Chapman.
Yeah, those two. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they played in the midfield, but there was a big disconnect between them. And so Damien had to think of ways to kind of bring these two guys so that they build a strong relationship, because what you're trying to do is build trusting relationships that dictate things on the field. And so imagine if you're emotionally connected, invested in someone, are you putting out more energy or less energy?
Exactly.
More energy. So what this is all about is really energy building systems. How do we build strong connections and ties to inspire people to play with a higher energy all the time?
Incredible.
Yeah, it was crazy when you showed me the data, and I was like, wow. So with the other sports, have you found, is soccer the biggest one, or what's the biggest sport?
It's the one that I favor the most, because I don't do this. I don't this was almost
Yeah.
like a hobby for me.
Yes,
Right? It was
yes.
a passion. It
Yes.
wasn't really, I wasn't selling this thing.
Yeah.
So the only way that I would go and do an engagement is if somebody said, hey, I understand you're doing this. Can we talk about it? And I really trust that they want to do this and to continue to doing this.
Yeah.
And so the story goes, Sasha was the first, Tim Bezbajenko at MLS
Yeah.
was the second. Damon was always in the picture, and
Yep.
we've been doing that for a long time, and we did that with Lawrence Tech.
Yeah. Fortunately, we didn't continue. I would like to
That's
that
the
continue.
issue.
Yeah, that was the problem. Budget.
Yeah.
But if we continued, but you always said, you don't have to do it every year, but every so often, you got to check back in to see how it's
That's
going.
That's right, and my capacity wasn't there to actually deliver.
Yeah.
So I was involved in other things, and in particular, this is what matters to me. So now I have time to do more, and we're going to continue to do more. But it went from Sasha, Tim Bezbajenko, in the years of TFC when they actually did something and won the
Yes.
championship.
Yes. Very good teams in Craig Vanny.
And they should have continued, but of course, because of leadership changes, you change culture, you change chemistry, and then things change. But Tim went to Columbus. We worked at Columbus. Columbus was very successful. Okay. Pat Onstadt moved over to Houston. We started working at Houston. They won the U.S. Open Championship. So now it's not as if that's the main ingredient. There's a lot that goes into play.
But it helps.
But if you're paying attention, if you're intentional about building culture, improving chemistry, and concerned about the motivational values of players, you stand a higher chance of achieving more success. And that's the message that I need to deliver.
I was saying you're delivering that message today here at the North American Soccer Expo in a couple of hours. So this is phenomenal, right? I mean, the North American Soccer, this is heaven for me, the North American Soccer Expo. I'm seeing people you and I have never met, but I've seen your name.
Right.
So it's incredible to meet you. I've seen people who I haven't talked to in years.
Yeah.
And this is what it's all about. You're gonna be coming back next year, right?
I think so, depending on how things go. Let's get some people in there so that they can hear the message inside at 2:00.
All right. Appreciate you stopping by. You got any more questions, Brooks?
Oh, you should hire him for your Bullets team, right? There's a little disconnection going on right now for your men's over 40
my
team,
over
right?
40 team could definitely use the help. They want to play a 4-3-3, and I want to play a 4-4-2.
Craig, listen, there might be a reason for that. but it's funny how it's amazing where I felt the most chemistry on any team with my old timers team.
Yeah.
Because we've known each other for so long.
Yeah.
You know the tendencies and the issues and everything else. And so it's a lot of fun to plan a team with chemistry.
Yeah, that's what. Well, at this age, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
The chemistry and the fun we have.
I guess my question is, as you've been doing this, just a final question. As you've been doing this throughout the years, have you found the different generations of? I mean, obviously the coach has to initiate getting the connections, but has the data changed, interestingly enough, in all the time you've done this, that you've seen signs of certain things and it's led to, is it interesting?
That's a great question,
Yeah.
Brooks.
Yeah.
I think that I'm sure if I was talking to somebody who played in the 60s and I mentioned this, they'd say, well, that reminds me of how things should have been, could have been.
Yeah.
I think the same thing, but I don't have enough data to show the difference. I think what is emerging is more of a leaderless team.
I could see that.
Right.
Where everyone's just on the same plane.
Right. So in other words, there isn't anybody that really stands out. And so now we need to talk about what does it mean, that the importance of stepping up and leading. And so it's almost as if the naturals aren't as frequent as they used to be. Right. And so now you still know that there is this potential. So now we're talking about emergent leaders and what do we do to help them become stronger, better leaders. So the job of a head coach, I think in these days, and I know that they won't buy that, is to really create leadership systems.
So much involved. I mean, take it for granted, really, when teams I've played on. But now I go back through my memory of teams that I've played on 20 years ago at Michigan State, and it's like, wow, we could have used that. Wow, we could. That would have made a difference. Absolutely.
It was a no-brainer for me when Damon told me about it to use it at Lawrence Tech, and it was a no-brainer. It's unfortunately we didn't continue with it, but you just see that it's like you said, it's a piece of the success, but it's a huge part.
Absolutely. No, to me, it's this. You've seen and watched organizations and teams with amazing talent totally get outperformed by teams that have a strong, unified system, understanding, and support for each other. That's what chemistry is.
so important in the culture of sports. Vancho, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to I'm looking forward to learning more about what you do here, and I'm going to jump into your session in a little bit. But for now, thank you. And we're going to keep connected, by the way.
Absolutely.
We're going to touch base a couple more times. I got so many more
You
questions.
got to come to the alumni game, Craig. He'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there, but I won't
I
play.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys.
Thank you.